I was able to pay off $43,000 of debt using this exact strategy that I'm going to be talking about in this very live stream. And all you have to do is find an extra one of these lying around every single month. So if that sounds interesting, make sure to stick around to the end of the live stream because this literally does not work if you do not follow all of the steps for this. And while I'm getting into this, we're going to be talking about why it's important, how the impact of the $100 inside the finances, and then how to get it. So it's first like why is it so important? The second part, how do we do it? Because I think once you see how important finding the $100 is and the impact that it has, you're going to want to do, you know, the next part, which is actually step one. But I'm going to talk about that. The screen that I'm on, very proud of. This is the software that I built for my free personal finance community. It's called Wealthway. And this is basically a budget debt tracking software. And as you're going through this right now, this is in like a beta testing mode. So if you're interested, the link's down in the description. I'm only offering this to people in my free personal finance community. So you have to join. And then, yeah, you can join a waiting list right now, depending on when you're watching it. But yeah, um, this is Wealthway, and I'm going to go through at the end kind of what this does. But let's talk about first why $100 is so important. Why one of these is going to change the trajectory of your debt, getting out of debt. So in Wealthway, we have a few tabs here, right? Dashboard, transactions, budgets, debts, reports, settings. All the debts we want to, obviously we want to go to the debts tab. And this is actually the feature that I love the most in Wealthway. So that's why I love talking about this first, because I do think that paying off debt is it's the best thing we can do for our for ourselves. It's a negative wealth, all that stuff, right? So let's get into it. So I didn't have to enter in front of all you guys. I created a list of 3 different debts here. We have a credit card, car loan, student loan. We have the balances for each, the interest rates, the minimum payments, and then current monthly payments. So in Wealthway, what you can do is you can either, so you can add a debt. Okay. So it's add new debt. You can enter all the same information here. You could delete a line. I'm not going to, but you could just delete anything, or you could just edit one that you currently have. Okay. So this is sort of the data entry portion of this. And, this is important to know. I've talked to a lot of people and they, weren't quite sure always about, hey, what's the interest rate? I'm not sure what the minimum payment is, right? So this is just a great way to just put all of your information in front of you. When I was testing this, I tested this to 25 line items. So hopefully you don't have more than that, but it should work for a lot of different line items if you were to have that many. So here's why the power of $100 is so important. Let's go over to the payment calculator. Oh, and by the way, these little summary things are pretty cool. It just shows you how much debt you have at the beginning of the month, how much you have at the ending of the month based on payments that you make, what the minimum payments are that you are, on the debt, and then the current monthly payments that you are making. So if we go to the payment calculator, this is where it gets pretty fun, in my opinion. So our current payment is the minimum, $950. This extra monthly payment, this is what we're going to be playing around with. This is where, why the extra $100 is going to be so important. We're going to talk about that in a second. This little section here, debt payoff strategy, it's just a quick little, hey, like this is what the strategies do. So for debt avalanche, it's going to tell you that we put the extra money towards the highest interest rate. And the snowball method is going to tell us we put the extra money on debt towards the smallest balance. There's also a custom tab here, and I will be going over that a little later on just to show you. But now you can see down here, so snowball payment plan, if we click avalanche, okay, avalanche payment plan. So everything sort of changes. You can see the calculator on the bottom changing the order of the debts based on the priority of the different strategy, which is very cool. So you'll notice here we have still the debt name, the balance, the interest rate, the monthly payment, and we have some new columns in here, total interest and debt-free date. And these are very, very important because we want to know, hey, based on this information of right now, it's me paying off minimum payments. When am I going to be debt-free? Now, I am doing this live stream in August 2025. So this is basically saying that based on these stats and making minimum payments, I will be debt-free in 12 years. Now, if you're very serious about paying off your debt, 12 years is not, yeah, it's not that great. It's not that, like, if you're actually serious about paying off $65,000 of debt, that's what this oops, sorry, that's what this example is here. We got to do better than 12 years, okay? And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So when we go to this extra monthly payment here, and you're going to see a lot of stuff moving around once I start typing. It's very intuitive. It's going to just like right now, I think I'm adding one extra dollar, now 10 extra dollars, 100 extra dollars, and that's where we want to be. Let's add $100 extra to our current payment. So it went from 950. So let me just go back to zero so you can see it. 950 to 1050. So it's adding an extra $100. This is more of a projection tab, if you will, something to kind of play around with. This does not mean that you're, by any means making $100 extra payments. This is not like tracking extra $100. This is just kind of for you to play around with. And I think it's really important to see, like, hey, what could I, how quickly could I pay this off if I pay this amount? And then you type in a little more and then a little more. And it gets really kind of encouraging, like, oh, only a little bit extra either saves me a ton or it's just a way better option for me. So let's dive in here. Now we have this new section down here called strategy comparison. And this is very, very cool. So it breaks down the stats for the snowball strategy, the stats for the avalanche strategy. And then since both of them have a benefit, so the avalanche method, that benefit is it's going to save you more money, right? Because it's attacking interest first, and the interest is the issue with debt. It's why we can't get out of it as quickly as we'd like, right? So that's the benefit there. The snowball strategy, the benefit is sort of the, you're likely going to be paying off a debt faster than with the avalanche method. So it's sort of the mindset, the psychology, because we all know that debt is more than just money, right? It's more than just numbers from time to time. So this tells us, okay, if we were to add an extra $100 to a month to, to our debt, if we were to use the snowball method, we'd be paying $54,000 of interest. Okay, our debt-free date is now February 2035. And the benefit here is that the first debt's going to be paid off 25 months faster than Avalanche, so 2 years. That's pretty cool. That's a cool benefit. And then same thing over here, the Avalanche strategy, okay, the total interest 43,000, so it's $11,000 in savings. The total the debt-free date is April 2034. And yeah, the benefit, like I mentioned, is we're saving $11,000. Okay, very cool. And down here, it's going to show us basically the same information, but it's going to update the total interest based on the strategy that we pick. So let's say, and it's also, I like this part as well. It's showing you where the extra $100 is going, just for complete clarity. So if we were to take away the $100, we just add zero. Remember, this is what it looked like down here. And then when we add the $100, it's showing us, hey, the $100 is going here. Now, if we toggle to the avalanche, I'm trying to get all of it on the screen, but my big fat head's in the way. But yeah, so you see the calculator's changing down here. And it's also showing us, okay, like if we wanted to see here, and we could already see kind of the difference between Snowball and the Avalanche, but what about the difference between paying off $0 extra a month versus $100? So if we paid $0 extra a month and we only made minimum payments, our debt-free date is May 2037, and we're paying about, I don't know, 65-ish, 67, $68,000, something like that, high 60s thousand dollars. And if we add an extra $100, still on the avalanche method, now we're at, okay, 43. So it saved us about $25,000 of interest just by adding the extra $100. And the debt-free date, well, you can't see it because my big fat head, but it's February 2034. I guess, yeah, sorry, April, yeah, because it says it up here. So yeah, it saves us years of being in debt, which is awesome. And now the custom tab, which I talked about earlier, what you can do here, let's say you don't want to necessarily do either of the strategies. You want, like, okay, I want to, I'm going to pay off this credit card first, just because of the interest rate. It's so super high. But then, you know what? this student loan is a pain in my ass. I just want to get rid of it. I've had it for years, right? Whatever the thing is. And then so you can see as I'm switching these, down here is changing, and we're going to talk about that in a second, right? So we got some stuff happening down there. So the same thing applies. We have a snowball section, we have an avalanche strategy section, and now we have a custom section. So it's going to show us the same stats. So the interest, the debt-free date, the total paid. I didn't talk about that, but this is very important. This is the total money that we're going to be paying. So I think a lot of times, and I was guilty of this before we paid off all the debt, you would walk around thinking like, okay, I have $65,000 in debt. But what you're not telling yourself is all the interest that you're going to be paying. So $40,000, $50,000 based on this example. And you're talking about actually you have over $100,000 in debt because of all the interest, right? So just a little caveat, something to think about. And that's why I built this tool, so I can give you guys a little more context of your situation. Because just because you took $65,000 from someone doesn't not took right, you borrowed it, doesn't mean that that's how much you have to pay off. You have a lot more probably, and that's okay. But that's what these tools are for. The first step is knowing where we stand, right? But back to the custom strategy. So this is going to show us against the custom strategy what does the snowball look like and what does the avalanche look like. So with this custom setup, the custom actually saves us $11,000 in interest compared to the snowball, but it's saying that the avalanche would save us $260 in interest. So this could be something where you're like, you know what? I don't really care about the $260 over, the next 5 years or something like that. That's not a lot over the next 5 years. It's like, I just really want to get rid of the student loan before the car loan. It's bothering me, whatever, right? You can switch and swatch, and maybe the custom strategy could end up being the better one. Okay, so I'm just going to try to play around with this and see if I can get it to be better here. No, okay, and that's fine. So it just gives you an idea of what's happening. So now if we go to the payment schedule tab, it's just another way to look at the debt. And again, this gives us an opportunity to play around with it. So if we were to add $100 here, you can see some of the stuff changing in this summary tab, which is very cool. Like now it thinks we're adding an extra $1, $10, $100. So it shows us our debt-free date based on the snowball method. And this is a drop down, so you can change it to the avalanche, the custom order that you set up, or minimum payments if you just wanted to see what the bare minimum is. And what I like about this is it will show you, okay, how much is being applied or how much you should be applying to each of the debts. So this is saying, hey, for the student loan, since you selected Snowball, it was $100 minimum payments, and now you added an extra $100. So here's what's happening here. And then you scroll down. Let's find when the first debt gets paid off, which is right here in 2030, this is saying. So now once this is paid off, the $200 goes towards this column here, the next debt. So we were paying $500 here. And then if we were to roll over this $200 to this debt, now we have $700, right? And we scroll all the way down. We try to find when this one's switching over. Okay, perfect. Now this $700 we're paying here transfers to add to the $350. So it just shows you like literally all the context of how the money should be applied and when stuff's like getting paid off and what money is being added to it and stuff like that. It's a very helpful tool, I think. But yeah, let me know if you're watching this live or afterwards, like what you think about this. And again, if you're interested in participating in Wealthway, again, it's completely free. If you want to jump on the wait list, right now there's a wait list, but depending on when you're watching it, it might just be open to everyone inside my personal finance community. It's called Dollar Discipline University, and the link's down in the description. It is school.com/debt. But let's get back into Wealthway, because there's one more tab in the debt, and then we're going to jump over to so we're talking about why the $100 is so important. We're going to talk about how to get that extra $100 from our finances right now without making any more income. And then we're going to jump back into Wealthway. I want to kind of give you another a lay of the land of the rest of the the software. So progress. This is pretty cool. So I click back here. This is another part that I like. It. You can click through each of the months here and you get different updates. So in July, I had made payments. So I started these balances, 25,000, 30,000, 10,000. And then after the payments that we have here, it shows us how much each of the current balances went down by. So you'll see of the $950 that we paid, $208 were of principal and $741 was the interest. And I think, again, this is another kind of missed thinking. That doesn't make any sense. This is another thing that we don't think of when we're making debt payments. It's like, man, I'm making $950 payments every single month. This is so great. But actually, based on this example, right? But $208 is being applied to the principal and $700 and $41 is being applied to the interest. So again, it's just providing you as much context as possible. And this is showing actual data. This is not like a projection thing. So there's nowhere to add the extra $100 to kind of test it. This is what you actually did. So at the end of July, you can see these ending balances here. So 24,900, 29,900, and then 9,009. If I click on August, those are going to be the starting balances for August, and then there's no payments in August in my test example here. But if we were to make a payment in August, and I can go through that later on when we're doing more of a tutorial of Wealthway, that would go down as well. So it's just a great way to kind of show you the context of your debt. And I think this is one of the more elaborate debt tracking softwares that I've seen, to be quite honest with you. But okay, Chris, this is great and all, but how do I find the extra $100? Well, let me introduce you to this spreadsheet. This spreadsheet tab is called the 3-month look back. And this is absolutely something that I'm going to integrate into Wealthway. There was a lot of things that I wanted to integrate in, but it's hard to do that, especially for someone with, this is like, there's coding involved in this. I don't know how to code. It was, tough stuff. So anyway, this will eventually get moved to Wealthway as a process that you can do in there. But I didn't want it not being in there to stop you from doing the thing and finding the extra $100. So what the 3-month look back process is just like the name. We want to go back 3 months worth of our expenses. We want to, however we spent money. So credit cards, debit cards, cash is a little harder to go back and think about or track. But so if you, debit cards, credit cards, get the statements out and you literally just categorize all your expenses into things like groceries, gas, utilities, right? All the stuff that we spend money on, see where it has been going over the last 3 months, and then we get an average. With this average, what we want to do is, okay, we look at sort of the 10,000 foot view level and like, where has my money been going, and does that make sense, and does it align with my North Star goals, which a process that we're going to do right now. And I'm just going to talk it through and give you me full screen. So the North Star goals, what I want you to do in this process is think about the things that matter to you the most in your life. They could be, life stuff. It could be financial stuff, money stuff, right? It doesn't matter. It could be things that you're thinking about doing like next week. It could be things that you're thinking about doing in 10 years. It could be all over the place. So like, what's the most important thing for you? Things for you. So get a list out or your notes app on your phone or whatever, and just write out like 2, 5, 20 things, doesn't matter, of the things that matter to you the most, the North Star goals. And then we go back to the 3-month look back and we ask ourselves, okay, based on this information that I have here, do these align with my North Star goals? Like, you can go through this and it's like, some of these are kind of tough because it's like, okay, like utilities, there's not really much we can do there. We could, I don't know, turn off a couple lights, save some electricity by not whatever, right? I mean, there's stuff you could do, but like that's such a small minimum thing. But you could look at like, ooh, okay, like dining out and food delivery was not one of my like, food convenience was not part of my North Star goals. So I've got $257 here that maybe I can realign in my finances to be able to apply towards, say, putting more money towards my debt. So someone could look at this instantly like, oh, boom, I just found an extra $100. I found an extra $200, right? And you just like, you just get super disciplined and you're just like, no, like I need to readjust this because at the end of the day, while it's so nice to be able to do all the things that we want to do, the reality is we're going to have to make trades eventually. And this part stinks. This part stinks to talk about because we just always want to do the things in our life that we want to do, like food, like dining out, food delivery. That's so convenient. Like you get home on a, I don't know, Friday night from a long night, long work week or whatever, and you're like, man, I don't feel like doing anything. You press a couple buttons and food's here in 30 minutes, right? Like that's very convenient. But at the same time, you have to think about like, okay, would I rather do that or would I rather, get out of debt 5 years sooner, right? With the extra $100 or whatever that example that we went through was. So after we kind of think about, okay, where was my money going? How is it aligned with my North Star goals? Now I want you to think about new budget amounts for these expense categories. So you can say like, okay, dining out and food delivery, I'm gonna bump that down, say $100 because I don't, yeah, it's not aligned with my goals, and I just found the extra $100 here. It's like great, but then it's like, ooh, but now I'm gonna need more groceries to counteract with that. Um, so you would actually increase your groceries because you need more meals now. So it's like, okay, I got to buy more food at the groceries. And it could be like, oh wow, health and fitness is actually my top five, top three thing for me, and I'm only spending $63 a month at it. Like you could look at it like that too, where it's like I'm not spending enough money, so maybe I need to increase this to $100 because it's so important to me, right? So I want you to think about this in both ways. I think a lot of people think about budgets as a restrictionary thing, and to me, it's just so far from the truth of that. It's about being intentional with our money. It doesn't show us a budget doesn't show us what we can't do with our money. It shows us what we can do, right? I mean, it's literally showing you all your numbers on your screen, which is awesome. But it's showing you what you can do. It's like here's your numbers, here's what you can do, right? And that's just kind of how it works. So part of the reason why I make the content that I do, these live streams, is to break these sort of habits and thought process of people in their personal finances with things like, you know, the budget. I think people hear the word budget and they cringe and they run for a couple reasons. One, maybe they've never done it before or they are inconsistent with it because, they don't want to see what they don't want to see. They know what they're going to see and they don't want to see it. Smash the like button if that's you. Or they just think it's this like restrictionary act on their life and it's going to hold them back and not be able to do the things that you want to do. But guess what? The trade off is um, if you have no budget, then you don't really know what you can or can't spend. And then we get into this like debt cycle of always going into debt. And then I would argue that that's more dangerous, not living your life to the fullest because you're always like answering to someone, right? Wouldn't it be so awesome if you just got rid of all of your debt and you just stopped answering to people? Like people stop knocking at your door. You stop getting like emails or mail, whatever, right? So this part of the process is, we update our new budget amount. You go through all these expenses, and here's the monthly savings column. By the way, I don't think I mentioned this, but if you like old school spreadsheets, I will always have these available as well inside of my free personal finance community. Again, the link is down below. So if you think Wealthway is maybe I don't know, too advanced or you're not too good with software or technology, that's fine. Like, I guess this is technically like, technology as well, software, just sort of set up differently. Maybe people are more used to it. Anyway, all that's there. It's a resource, so it's all completely free. I would never charge for a spreadsheet, um, or Wealthway. Um, so then, yeah, this column here is adding up all of our savings. And we're seeing that, okay, great. We found $142.40. Now, of course, this is not real money. This is our projected monthly savings based on the exercise that we went to. But what's great about this is you could go through this process, and let's say down here you're like, oh man, I only see $30. It's like, okay, well, you could either accept that, the $30. It's like, okay, I found $30. I'm going to try it in a month. Or you can just go through this process over again and just sort of keep reiterating what's been happening. So that's the 3-month look back. And in the spreadsheet here, it's connected to a budget, but I would much rather talk about the budget tab in Wealthway. So here it is. And I have it broken out. So if you kind of log in, everyone's going to have the same 4 top categories. So I have income, debt, saving and investing, and in expenses. And you can see inside we have 4 categories in income, 3, 4 in saving and investing. And expenses is a much broader web of categories, and we'll go through that shortly. But let's go kind of first how this will work. So you can click on these little arrows here to open it up, which is cool. And then we can scroll down. So everyone's going to have under income, salary, side hustle, bonus, other income. Obviously, not all of these will apply to you. So if you just want to keep your budget cleaner, you could simply hit the trash can next to it and delete it. I'm not going to do that. Or if you're like, man, I can't believe he didn't include this thing, you can go right up to the plus sign next to the larger category name, and you could just add it and add the category. And you see it here. And then you could be like, well, actually, no, I just kidding. I don't want to add that. So you just delete it, right? So you can delete whatever, add whatever, and that's how we do it. In the expected section, this is where this is the income that we're expecting. So let's say you make $5,000 a month. You simply type this in, and you can see some of this stuff is starting to fill out up here. This is a budget summary. We're going to talk about this in a second. I think it's going to be very helpful. And then in order to add a transaction, what you do is you go to this plus add transaction. So we're going to do the amount. So let's say it's like one of your paychecks. So, okay, $2,500, August 5th, sure. And we'll call it paycheck 1. And then we just add transaction. You're going to see it added to the actual. And then you're also going to see some stuff happening up here. There we go. And now it's here. And now what we can do is I've really found some other budgeting apps, tracking apps, a little confusing as to how to like view some of the transactions. Always, some of them are great, some of them are not. So I just thought, what's better than having the transaction available in the actual widget, and then it's just a drop down. You can see it. So over here, it's going to show you one transaction, right? And you'll know that because in Side Hustle here, we haven't added anything. It says no transactions. There's nothing to click on. So when there's something to click on, it's like, yes, I added something here. And again, same thing. You can either delete it. I'm not going to, or you can edit it. You can say, oh yeah, it was actually 2,400, and you can update it, and then this will change. Okay. So that's how we add some of that. At a broader level, I like the idea of dragging these categories around. That way you can kind of prioritize the things that are most important to you. Let's talk about the debt because they're slightly different. The debt budget amounts are coming from the debts tab. So if you hover over this, you won't be able to add anything. It says to update debt budget amounts, go to the August tab in debts. So there's nowhere else to add this except for the debts tab. So for me, it was very important to make it as simple as possible. Again, in other tracking, apps or websites, whatever, it seems like you can add stuff like in multiple spots. I think it's very confusing. So for debt, the only place you can add it is here. And then for everything else, the only place you can add it is in the budgets tab. So let me just open this back up. So these are pulling from the debt tab. So we can't change that. So same thing here. If you wanted to add an actual, you could add a transaction. It does show you some little stats around each of the debts. So it kind of carries forward the balance. So this is the beginning of month August balance, which is pretty cool. So it kind of keeps you up to date on that. And then, so saving and investing is similar to that. So we're going to go into the expenses category, and there's a few different like high level categories here. Again, everyone's going to get the same ones. If for some reason you hate all of these, right, you could, of course, just go to expenses, add, test, great, add the subcategory. It's going to be here. And then you could even open this up, open this up, and add another one. And then that's going to be a subcategory of this one. And also you can, if you're like, oops, I added it to the wrong one, you can click on these little three dots next to it and you can move it to housing. And then it's going to be up here now. Right. And then you could always delete it. It's not a big deal. So anyway, yeah, it's just very simple to kind of navigate around. Same concept here. You can mismatch these, drag them all over depending on whichever one. Maybe you want to keep an eye on one, you want to keep ones towards the top, whatever. But then, yeah, the same idea when we're adding it. So a budget amount, let's say your rent and mortgage is $2,000. We're going to add a transaction. It's going to be $2,000. Add the transaction. Great. Now it's saying remaining zero. Okay, yeah, I wanted to show you this as well. So let's do another one. Budget for utilities, we'll say $250, but the transaction is $300. It's going to show us over. So we were over the budget for this one. And it shows us green if we're even or under. And then for debt and savings, what's going to happen is, let's say you budget $100 for your emergency fund, and then you add and you actually end up saving $150. Look at this. You're going to get an emoji, guys. Way to go. You're getting an emoji. Little motivation there, right? Cool. So yeah, that's kind of the budget tab. This summary has been kind of calculating everything here. So it's going to look at the total income that we've actually said we've made versus the expected budgeted amount. Okay. The total expenses we've paid so far versus our budgeted expenses, the deficit versus the actual income and the actual expenses, and it's deficit because we spent more than we made. So if we go to income and if we add another transaction line of say $500, okay, great, we are so rich, and now it's a surplus, $450. So this changes based on obviously this calculation left to budget. So this is looking at your expected budget expenses versus your actual expenses, and then left to spend. This is looking at your this is looking at your budgeted income. So like your expected income versus the actual. Yeah, this is the expenses. This is income. Sorry. And this little tab here, transactions, I think I have more in July. So this is basically a glorified like Excel spreadsheet, Google Sheets, just like a table that you can filter around. So you can just look at August transactions if you want. So if we go to up here, we could go to year to date. Why isn't that working? Not sure. We're just going to look at July. And income, so we could pick, type, we could look at all the expenses, all the income, right? So it's going to toggle, okay, here's just the income for July. Now I just want to see expenses. Right now it's only that. So you can kind of just play around with these. If you're looking for a certain description, it's like, I only want to look at my mortgage. which I made in August. Okay. Yep. So you can just kind of play around, filter through it, do a custom date range, look kind of year to date. You can't add any transactions here. I think that would have been very confusing, but this is just like a summary of all the transactions, and you could filter them like in order, date order, however you want to do this. Okay. Then we have the dashboard, and just some like high level stuff here. So for me, when I would, go to a dashboard, the first thing I would want to look at each month is how much money do I like, how much money do I have available? So when I entered July transactions before this live stream, I set it up so we made $4,000 of income. Our expenses were $5,151.36 for a cash deficit of $1,151. Okay, so just very quick information. Um, this shows us our expense budget. So if you want to just look at your budget in as a whole, so we budgeted in July for $4,951, and we actually spent the 5151. So we're over budget about $200. This part's very cool here. Top spending categories in July. So it's just this big uh, pie chart, interactive pie chart. So it's showing, okay, the largest expense. So there's the largest one here, rent and mortgage. It's about 39% of our monthly spend. And yep, it's the $2,000. Then we can look over here. Okay, groceries is next. Credit card. Okay, restaurants, right? And you could just go through all of these and just quickly kind of look and see. And again, if we were to click on another month, the data would change because it's pulling from another month. So we have data in July and August, and you can see them changing here. I'm doing July because there's more data in July. And just like a debt progress, quick little snapshots. We have these beginning balance amounts, the principal payments, the interest payments, and then the ending balance, the ending principal balance, right? So it's just a quick little snapshot in there. One other feature that I want to show you. So let's say you're done with the month, and you're like, you know what? I don't want to make any more mistakes. I'm going to close the month. So you'll see here, I closed August. There's a lock button on August, and it just quickly brought us into the next month of September. So if I go back into August, which you can definitely do, you can unlock it really quickly, or you can just close it again. Okay. And you'll notice that you can't add anything or delete anything. The only thing you can do is just kind of view. It's sort of on edit, or it's on view mode only. That way, when you lock the month, you can't make any changes. This applies to the debts tab as well. So if you lock it over on the budgets, it's going to be locked on the debts tab. And I can't add a debt here anymore. I can't edit these or delete these or anything. It's just locked. And I think the thinking here is like, I would hate for someone to accidentally be in August, for example, or September, and then put an August date in, and then it goes into their August stuff without them really realizing it, and it messes up their cash flow or something. So I just think that this is a nice little tool to have on top of it. The one last thing I wanted to show you is reports, and this is going to look a lot better with more months of data. But basically, this is just a couple items here that I thought would be pretty helpful. So monthly income versus expenses. So we have 2 months in here already. So the blue line is income, okay? And the red line is expenses. So it's just imagine like 12 months being here, or 24 months being here. I think that would be pretty cool to look at just to kind of see. Categories, again, same thing. This is 2 months worth of data. So imagine you have a whole year here, and you could just sort of see like, okay, what are my top 10 categories? And then again, this is a very interactive pie chart that you can look around. There's a summary up here. It's like, okay, all time, what's my cash look like? How much income have I made? What are my expenses? You can also do years or custom range, okay? Budget analysis, so similar idea. The blue lines are the amounts that we budgeted for, and the red line is the actual. It gives you a very quick indication of how accurate is my budget. And again, think about if 12 months were sitting here, like you would probably see a couple months that were like way off. Maybe you had an unexpected expense in one of the months, 2 of the months, and you're like, huh, and you dig into the month and you figure out like, oh, okay, That's what it was. Cause I think this could be really helpful to like help you understand how much to budget. And then debt progress here, it's just another way to look at it with some information, payment progress, okay, time to freedom. So just another way to kind of look at stuff. Um, so yeah, that's how we do it, guys. Let me know kind of your thoughts. This is my free personal finance community. It's Dollar Discipline University. And in here, man, it's been so cool that like it's been growing recently, like a lot, and just chatting with new people every day in here, trying to help them out with their personal finances. We have a bunch of um, free calls in here, like free community calls. We just had one on Friday, and there's other things in here that we're doing to help people. All the free resources are in here, like absolutely. I just think that like I always laugh when I see people on like Instagram or TikTok charging a few dollars for a spreadsheet. I just think like it should be free. And in here it is. Anyone that joins that's new gets a free strategy call with me. It's a free 30-minute call. We just get to introduce ourselves. We talk about where you are with your finances, where you want to go, and then we maybe try to figure out the messy middle of like, okay, how do we start to kind of go on that process? Um, so it's been really great talking to some new people, and yeah, I mean, you can just kind of scroll down and see like all the people that are engaging in here. It's very cool. Community is probably one of the coolest things that I've ever been a part of, to be very honest with you. I'm so glad that I made this. But if you're still watching this and you're not in here, I think this is actually a perfect place for you to hang out. There's people just like you on the same journey of trying to pay off more debt, save more money, and just build up confidence with your personal finances, right? Because it's something that we teach. It's something where bad habits can quickly go from generation to generation without really noticing. It's just kind of you live that way and you don't really know any way else. This is an opportunity to kind of get a bigger perspective on just finances and like, hey, what are other people doing? Um, it's going to be really helpful. But anyway, let me know if you guys enjoyed this live stream. I'd love to do more tutorials about Wealthway. I'd love to do more tutorials about how an extra $100 can significantly reduce your debt. So you guys let me know what you want to see next, and I will see you in the next live stream.